All right, so I am here with Lorne MacFadyen, who plays Daniel, and Barry Ward, who plays Jack from On the Sea. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
No worries, thanks for
So, my first question, and maybe a little general, but what was it that attracted you to this script and story?
Well, Helen's writing for me was the first, that was the first thing I came across, and she was a novelist first of all, so her writing is very kind of visceral and raw, and the characters were really clear, so I think just the sort of setting along with the characters, it was just the perfect kind of tense atmosphere for this kind of storytelling. And then actually when I heard that Barry was involved, that he'd been cast, we did the chemistry read together, that really excited me as well. I've not even told you that before, have I? Yeah. But that's our first date, yeah. And I'd seen Barry's work for years, I was a big fan. Jimmy's Hall, Ken Loach film years ago. I really related to the sort of character and the setting, because I'm from a fishing community myself, so I really was interested in presenting that authentically.
Yeah, same as that. Read the script, immediately was attracted to the world of it. It's a world I've seen, it's been ever present in my life, but without ever, exploring at any kind of deep level. So to get to kind of dive into that world was a real attraction. And then the characters I thought were very sympathetic, and I really liked the people in the story and thought, okay, these are good people to spend time with and further explore.
Yeah, they're both men of very few words, but when they speak, there's a purpose.
Totally.
And what were some of the most rewarding parts of getting to create these two characters, and what were some of the challenges?
For me, the challenges are the rewards.
Okay.
I loved the physicality of it, be it in the workplace or in terms of the relationships with family or with Daniel, all of which presented different challenges and all of it very rewarding.
And for me, the challenge with, like you were saying about the sparse dialogue, the challenge is filling those spaces with something, with sort of loading them with context and backstory, so that you can see that there's something else going on underneath there, and there's such history for both of the characters, and the history is so important to this situation that they find themselves in when the film starts, where had one of them gone one way in life, they might be living a similar life to the other. So I think that was the part that I enjoyed most of all, was sort of fleshing out the backstory, and with the help of Helen, she was really collaborative in terms of she was open to bringing your own kind of style to it, and your own input from your own experiences and from other things, and that was definitely my favourite part of it.
So Len, you said you're from a fishing community, so I'm curious, did either of you have to do any training or research to get ready for like the work on the ship or the work with the...
Well, it was a bit close to the wire for filming, so they were still deciding on what kind of vessel that Daniel would be on, what kind of trawler, because just a slight variation of boat would mean that they're doing a completely different job. So we didn't get that much time, but we did have some time with a fisherman whose boat it was, who was showing us the ropes, literally. And that was really interesting to sort of see the daily life of someone like that, and get a sense of the isolation as well for the characters. I think that when you're out on the sea, you're kind of away from everything, and you're away from all the pressures from the town for a little while for your shift. I think I watched a lot of YouTube videos as well about how people, some people just set up a GoPro and film their shift, and I think I was one of the only people that watched that footage, but that was really useful.
Yeah, you'd sent me a bunch of videos to watch, and then when you're shooting low budget movies, time is restricted, so you kind of get shown what to do, and you gotta learn it quick and just repeat the action. It's generally details and not difficult to master, but it gives the impression that we know a lot more about it than we do.
I wouldn't have us working on a shift though.
So one of the key themes in the film that's been said is about masculinity and that idea of, self-discovery, but there are so many more themes in this film. There's family, there's desire, there's guilt and shame and acceptance. Which of these themes do you feel your character is really clearly presenting?
For me, I think acceptance is probably Daniel's biggest one. He's gone through a lot in his life previously, which is not explained in the dialogue, but in the backstory, he's gone through a lot, and he's come to a place where he's mostly healed from a lot of that, and he's accepting of himself and who he is, and he operates his own life on his own terms. So I think that's what Jack sees in him as well, as this kind of escape. He's out there and he's got his own kind of life on his own terms.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Great question.
And a heavy question. And I think in many ways, speaking from Jack's kind of contribution to the movie, he potentially represents all of those things, and I think specifically what he represents or presents is really in the eye of the beholder, and a different audience member may extract something different from him depending on their own worlds and needs and where they're at that point in time. But there's something about, and I'm sure it's in that thorough list you've mentioned, selfhood and self-identity, and I think if Jack has repressed certain aspects of himself when he meets Daniel, and Daniel enters this world and is in many ways unashamedly assured of himself, self-assured, that's a massive attraction for Jack, because it's perhaps something that's lacking in his own makeup, But all of those things were in mind when playing it. I think Jack kind of experiences all of those things to some degree, and maybe all at the same time, But it's great that the film and the subject matter and the characters are that rich that an audience can absolutely extract all or any of those things from it.
I think the interesting thing as well is that the dynamics shift all the time throughout the film. So there's certain points where Jack is kind of the more kind of confident, solid person and the adult in the relationship. And other times I take on that role, and then it might just be one scene or one little bit of information gets revealed where the status suddenly changes, and Jack becomes this little boy that needs guiding. So I think that was a really interesting part for me, was seeing just how little knocks send these characters into a different persona.
Yeah, that's it. We're ever changing and evolving, and we contain multitudes. And it's, when we meet Jack, he's established as the solid, self-assured guy. He knows himself, he knows the world he's in, and then suddenly with the introduction of another, that all, is suddenly less united. Yeah, it becomes fractured.
So the one thing I'll close with, what are you hoping people, and this is a loaded film, after they've sat for almost 2 hours and lived in this world, in this small fishing community, what do you want them to take away?
I want them to savor the next mussel that enters their mouths and think, wow, I have a greater idea of the amount of effort that came from getting that from a seabed onto a plate, onto the end of my fork and into my mouth.
It's actually, do you know what, I know that sounds flippant, but it's actually a good point. That is actually touched on quite a lot in the film, the kind of environmental cost of certain types of fishing and the tensions that come between trawling and between dredging, which kind of ruins the seabed and all that sort of stuff. So that was almost like a little extra tension thrown in there. But you said something brilliant earlier, which was, you know, the takeaway will be in the eye of the beholder. You know, there'll be certain things which people don't need to hear, and then other people will really need to hear or see a character being a certain way in their life, and sometimes it's moments that surprise you, characters that, you know, there's a scene where a character is just kind for a second. You know, in the chip shop, that really gets me. Yeah, it's a beautiful scene, and it's not necessarily one of the big scenes in the script. So that I don't think there's a message, you know, that necessarily.
But if there was, it should be this one. When we were on the boat, we shot this and filmed it, and Lorne gave, paraphrase maybe this meme about pirates and we filmed it. Didn't make the cut, but this is a good message.
I just remembered it. Yeah. So pirates spend their whole life searching for treasure, but the real treasure are the friendships that they make along the way.
I think that's a beautiful place. Well, enjoy the festival. Best of luck with the movie, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Ciao, man. Thanks. Great questions.